Hi, hello everybody. I'm happy to be here. It's been great to hear from everybody so far. Um, can you unspotlight my video for a second? So I was thinking, since it's 8:42 and it's September 30th, 2021. I don't know how we got here, and I have a cold. And because I'm talking about legislative theater, which is a participatory democracy process and we just had a break. So I'm going to do a little warm up that we would do before a legislative theater process. So if you unspotlight me, if you want, you can go into gallery view if people have their video on. You can do this with or without sound. We're just going to sing a little song. Yes, we are. So I'm going to sing a little song and you're going to sing back to me if you're up for it. Again, sound on or off. You sing back to me the opposite. Here we go. Yes, yes, yes.
No, 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 no.
Great, great. I love a little bit of sound so we know that we're with it. Yes, no, yes.
No,
Yes,
yes,
no, yes.
No, no, yes.
yes,
Yes, no.
Up, down, up.
down, down, up, down,
Up, down.
Down,
down, down, up,
Up, down, up.
down,
down,
Up, down, no.
down,
down,
Up, yes.
Left, right.
Right,
right,
left.
Right, down, yes.
yes,
up,
no.
All right, very good. That was amazing. Give yourself a little round of applause. Beautiful. So anybody feeling a little bit upside down, a little bit confused after that? So that's actually the way that we want to start a legislative theater process, to reimagine democracy a little bit upside down, a little bit backwards, and to reimagine some structural problems in a bit of an upside down way. Legislative theater comes from Augusto Boal, Theater of the Oppressed. We've been talking about TO a lot tonight. I originally come from New York, surprisingly, where I used to be a part of Theater of the Oppressed NYC, and now I'm continuing to explore legislative theater in the UK. And I'll tell you what legislative theater is, and maybe why it's interesting in this moment. So if you can see that, this is, yeah. This is a way we would describe legislative theater in New York City at TONYC, Watch, Act, Vote. And very briefly, the way it works is that communities impacted by structural oppression, could be structural racism, sexism, classism, ableism, homophobia, xenophobia, right? That reveals itself in institutions, in institutional policy and practice, come together to build a play about their shared experience. And then that play is brought to an audience of stakeholders who are impacted by that issue in lots of different ways. So peers, neighbors, advocates, policymakers, all together. Here you see them having an advocacy fair, learning about some of the policy interventions in the issue before the play, and then warm up like you just did, because everyone is an actor in democracy and in the world and in our lives in this process. And the play demonstrates the human impact of a policy problem. Right? Already a little bit different from the way that policymakers usually talk about policy. Here, for example, you see an issue that young people in New York City were facing, in which 3 condoms on a person was considered evidence of prostitution by the police. So queer youth were in outreach spaces being given condoms for safety and then stopped by the police and could be arrested for prostitution for having more than 3 condoms on their person. You can see, if you know about forum theater, that an individual person intervening to try to change this situation wouldn't get very far. This is a policy problem. So then, as in forum, an audience member intervenes, tries a new alternative, right? A new idea in this situation. Now, as a difference to forum theater that you might know, there's a couple ways that this idea is happening. One is we're saying, actually, we want to see how this idea doesn't work, because we know that an individual intervention won't actually fix this problem. So the way in which this idea doesn't work reveals the gap that is a policy gap. Or we can use a magic wand and try a policy idea and see how it still might need to be tweaked and changed, or how maybe it would magically address the problem. And then that forum and discussion inspires the audience to write or come up with together, alone in partners, policy ideas. And everybody knows how to make policy in this process. Policy is the gap between what I can do, what we can do in this problem, and how we want to see it change. And then policy makers, we call them in this process policy rangers, like Power Rangers with different powers, come together to help sort and process the audience's ideas in real time. And that is very, I don't know, I find it exciting, messy. This is a very messy process. Tony was talking about chaos a lot, and I'm all about chaos. And this builds relationships between policymakers and communities. Yeah, you know that already. Okay, cool. And then there's a vote. And sometimes that vote is about what we prioritize, but every time what happens after the vote is that we get the policymakers coming from all different places to make commitments of action, what they're going to do after that event. And then that leads to the community, the troop, the organization, following up and advocating and pushing for that policy or those policies in those spaces with policymakers. Now, those pictures are from New York. In the last 2 years, I've been doing this in the UK. This was online, and also online, in-person actors, online audience. And a couple ways that we've been using that, we had voting online. There's a report you can find here. I can share the links. And I'm gonna stop sharing for a second just to tell you a couple more things. Hope everybody's with me. A couple ways that we've been using that or kind of engaging with that in the UK. So in Greater Manchester, the GMCA, the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, has used legislative theater to develop its Greater Manchester homelessness prevention strategy over the last year, with like 4 plays, 30-something actors, and 22 policy proposals from that strategy from that process are in the homelessness prevention strategy. In Glasgow, we're working on climate policy leading up to COP26 with young people. And already the planning department in Glasgow, the city planning department, has implemented an interactive map for people to access any planning applications that would affect their open spaces and green spaces that came out of an idea from the performance. So these are some of the kinds of concrete things. What I'm looking for in legislative theater and what I'm looking for in art practice in general is structural changes that we can touch, that we can hold on to. Lots of things about legislative theater aren't working, and I'm interested in those a lot too, and I don't have any more time, but let's talk about them in the Q&A. So thank you very much. That's it for me.